everyone. As Joyce introduced me, I'm LJ. I use he, they pronouns. And I'm here to talk to you about Christian apocalypse and a lot of other things. Yeah.
The microphone went down.
Yeah.
Hold up.
Yeah. Here. Is this better? There we go. All right. So, religion. It seems to be one of the universal constants of human life. If you look around societies across the world and across time, you'll find that most humans have built up some sort of belief system that attempts to explain the mysteries of the world around them. There are a lot of mysteries out there. Even if the religion itself doesn't fully explain those mysteries, there's a reassurance to the idea that some being, somewhere, knows what's happening and is building towards something, even if we can't quite understand what. The late Sir Terry Pratchett, who's one of my favorite authors, once wrote an exchange between the Avatar of Death and his granddaughter, Susan, in which Death gently talks her around to the idea that humans need to believe in little lies, like the Tooth Fairy, so that they can believe in the big lies like justice, mercy, and duty. Death tells her, "Take the universe and grind it down to the finest powder and sieve it through the finest sieve and show me one atom of justice, one molecule of mercy. And yet you act as if there is some ideal order in this world, as if there is some rightness in the universe by which it may be judged." "Yes," Susan replies, "but people have got to believe that, or what's the point?" What is the point indeed? Belief has a great power for good in this world. I don't think I need to prove that to anyone sitting here. As UUs, we are all about our spiritual beliefs supporting a desire to do good in our community. But belief can also be a tool of complacency and control. If you're not careful, it's easy to impose your belief on others rather than merely use it to shape your own interactions with the world. My sister, who is a therapist, tells me that this is called resolving cognitive dissonance in scientific terms, and that humans are very, very good at it. Christianity is a particularly thorny example, given how widespread it is. We really don't talk enough about how what is arguably the most powerful religion in the world started out as, and often still is, an apocalypse cult. Much is made of the idea of Jesus of Nazareth as the Savior and the Messiah. But what doesn't come up quite so often anymore is that in the belief of those who would become the early Christians, the arrival of the Messiah signaled the beginning of the end of the world. This idea is still present in modern Judaism, but since they don't believe that Jesus was the Messiah, they don't have to grapple with one of the thorny problems at the heart of Christianity. If Jesus really was the Messiah, why is the world still around? Now, for the early Christians, this was less of a problem. In the decades following Jesus' execution, it was easy enough to believe that the apocalypse was just, taking a little more time than they'd initially believed, or even that it had already started and was just not as dramatic and fast-moving as they'd anticipated. If the world is about to end, there are a lot of things that you can let fall by the wayside, much like when I had a big paper due in college and I would pull an all-nighter to finish. When there's a short deadline, it's easy to sacrifice health and sanity for a day or two to get you over the line. But you can't live your whole life like that. Replacing food and rest with sugary snacks and energy drinks? I mean, you can try, but sooner or later you'll find that you've sacrificed your long-term health, both mental and physical, for a short-term gain. Unfortunately, a lot of people will try it anyway. That's kind of almost expected in a lot of colleges. In the case of Christianity, an entire subsection of our culture is just chugging 5-hour energy until they collapse. This metaphor is getting away from me. Many of the idiosyncrasies of Christianity can be traced back to this belief in the imminent apocalypse. Let's follow one of them. Someone might want to get that door. So, Paul's railing that everyone should be celibate and that marriage should be solely a last resort for those who just absolutely cannot control their libido doesn't make a lot of sense in the context of a religion that has dominated most of the world for centuries. But given that much of Paul's biblical contributions are letters preserved by his followers that were originally written for specific communities and composed while he thought the world was actively ending, it makes a bit more sense that he urged those people to treat procreation as a lower priority. I mean, why would you distract yourself from the work of saving your soul with the pleasures of the flesh when you had such little time? Why would you choose to bring children into a dying world? So many people my age openly decide against children for that very reason, and we don't even have a big apocalypse prophecy to point to. The most recent one was back in 2012, and that turned out pretty anticlimactic. But for early Christians, once a few hundred or so years had passed, they were forced to admit that universal celibacy, or even near celibacy, wasn't a viable long-term strategy for most people. And the apocalypse really was taking its time. So how do you reconcile the words of one of the most important figures in the resulting religion with the fact that most humans, as a general rule, are not made for that sort of life? Well, you can either acknowledge that the Bible is a book compiled by human authors from multiple sources and written for a variety of various and often actively conflicting audiences, or you can get really weird about sex. Guess which one they went with. Now, to be fair, being weird about sex is not something that Christians have a monopoly on. But as anyone queer knows, plenty of them have bought into that particular sentiment. And a lot of them managed to extrapolate this whole thing into a suspicion of anything that brought pleasure or joy. And so, 2,000 years later, we in modern America are living with the consequences of an ancient apocalypse cult halfway across the world, trying to reconcile themselves with an unexpected future. Now, not all Christians took this approach. Plenty of Christians I know have taken the much more sensible route of adapting their beliefs away from their apocalyptic origins to fit a modern audience and a changing understanding of the world. But unfortunately for all of us, those currently in charge of this country are not among them. And those at the top are ruthlessly taking advantage of the history of apocalyptic extremism in their religion to ease people into fascism. Do I blame people for buying in? I mean, okay, I kind of do, but I do understand the impulse. It's an easy way to face the horrors of the world. As long as you can believe that senseless suffering and cruelty are merely the entrance exam for a fairer world beyond, you don't have to feel the hurt of being unable to stop them. You can know that any hurt you do feel is in service of some sort of final goodness, that there is an end beyond which everything will be perfect. And if the big apocalypse isn't coming right now, you can just wait for the personal apocalypse of death. And who knows, maybe they're onto something. I'm not here to tell anyone that their beliefs are wrong. All I know is that I don't know. I also know that if I don't know what happens beyond this life, then I can't live my life waiting for some apocalypse or rapture or whatever you want to call it. What if this really is all there is? And even if it's not, so what? Is it meaningless to make a change for the better? I'm reminded of a political cartoon on the subject of climate change, where a skeptical businessman asks, what if it's a big hoax and we create a better world for nothing? And it's not just religion that pushes people to this sort of belief. I meet so many people my age who have these grand dreams of changing the world, or at least the country, of this revolution that changes every aspect of society and builds it back up better. It's a really beautiful dream. Sometimes I want it so much my chest aches. But it's also another kind of apocalypse fantasy. I've studied historical revolutions enough to know that attempts to tear down society and start fresh just don't fix anything. People just suffer and die while those at the top figure out new forms of corruption, and the same people always end up on top. I think I can confidently say that every person in this room believes in the importance of taking action for a better world. Personally, I'm not going to wait for some apocalypse, personal or otherwise, to sort things out. I can't fix everything myself. I can't fix anything by myself. But I can work towards a better world. I can put the small amount of time and energy that is mine towards making things better for myself and for others. The results may not be visible at first, and they may not manifest in the results that I'm fighting for until long after I'm gone. But that doesn't mean that they are meaningless. I often see advice to think about what you would do if you knew that the world would end tomorrow, or in a year, or any such short period of time. I understand the point of that thought exercise, but today I'm asking you what you would do if you decided to believe that the world will continue to be here. Even if the world does end tomorrow, what you do today matters. Thank you.